It's a simple thing. So it begins. I never thought I would be tolling the belfry. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you all. Can you hear me? Well, thank you for coming. Celebrate Mark. I want to start off by sharing a story, how I met Mark. And it's appropriate that it's Mardi Gras also, because that's when I met him. I had a art car. Many of you know of the art car that I had called the Big Katuna. And and so I'd take it to Mardi Gras, and I took it to Burning Man and Mardi Gras and so forth. But anyway, I parked it. We used to have Mardi Gras at the art center downtown, and Mark had his truck parked right there out in front, right on the front entrance there. And I took some people around town and brought them back, and then I parked right behind his truck. Well, I kind of popped the clutch or something. Something went screwy. He had a camper in the back of his truck, and the nose of my tuna fish went through the window in his camper. Right? So I didn't know whose truck it was. Turns out he was the guy wearing this hat. And so he was all pissed off and everything else. And I said, and I looked at the window and I'm going, it's just the window. And I thought, I can repair this. And he's going, yeah, right, yeah. I said, no, I'll fix it. I'll get it done. And so he lived up in the east end of Ojai. And so I went over to his house. I measured his window and went over to his house, and I brought the window and I fixed it, and I put it in his truck. Put a new window back in the truck, right? And that's how I met him. We spent the afternoon together, and it was great. And he's got so many. I have fond memories of him at that time. And he used to come back and play at Mardi Gras several times, and so that's why this is being held today. Yeah. And I thought it might be appropriate for anyone else out there to share also when they met Mark and how their story might weave into that. Does anybody want to do that? Okay. Keith. This is Keith.
Hi, I'm Keith. Hi. It's a privilege to live on Chris's ranch up in Oregon for the last 3.5 years. And that's where I met Mark, was him coming to the ranch. And what a talent, my gosh. He was playing his fiddle and guitar and the flute and keyboards and everything. He was this amazing, amazing talent. And we started playing music together. And after a time, I moved with my lady at the time to Enterprise, just right near Joseph, and had a house there and had this big garage that was like insulated and like the perfect studio. So I set up a studio, and it was like a 3-car garage, and Mark would come over with his friend Mike, who was an excellent world-class drummer. And I would roll tape and we would just jam, just play, just have fun making music. And I've got hours and hours of our music together. And he was quite a character too. Yeah. But we had so much fun with the music. It's all about the music. Yeah, he's a good soul. I know he's in a better place, and he struggled. I know he had a lot of struggles in his life, and that was kind of evident, obviously evident, in the days that we were able to spend time together. But yeah, I wish him well. I think you're doing okay. Are you okay? Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
I met him.
I think we got. Did you have a microphone? Yeah, it's over here in the front. All right, here, use this one.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
Or you can come up here, either way.
I don't mind. That's
Okay.
fine. I actually, I don't really remember I remember I jammed with him the first time, and that was really fun. When he was living on the East End there, I was playing drums, and he had that orchestra, Flambeau Orchestra. But the funniest story I wanted to tell was just an hour ago when I was driving up here, I was listening to a gig that we did, I think it was spring of 2023 at the Ventura Harbor, and he was playing fiddle, and we did a couple songs, and then I was recording on my phone, and then all of a sudden there was some noise behind us because there was a large Mexican family having a beautiful birthday party inside the Copa. We were playing on the patio outside, and so after we heard a bunch of noise and people clapping and stuff, and he just goes, "I'll be right back." And he just walks right. He goes into the party, and next thing you know, people screaming and clapping and laughing. He's in there playing fiddle, and I followed him in, and then we did La Bamba, and we had a great time. And then, but it's kind of funny because it's all on this recording. You can hear us in there, and people screaming and really enjoying it. And then we just came back out and finished our set on the patio. It was a great memory. Thanks for listening.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Chris. My name is Paul Teft. Mark and I met a little club in Miners Oaks where he was attempting to change the direction of his life. As you said, Mark had struggled for years with substances. Sorry. Anyway, Mark had struggled for years with substance abuse, and fortunately, I had that same problem and tamed it and been able to stay on that path. And Mark and I became friends because of that. And his sponsor was a good friend of mine. For my 20th sober AA birthday, we had a party at my shop on Main Street in Ventura, and Ventura Avenue, actually. And Mark put a party together where we had 3 different bands playing: Stan Taylor, Jesse Rhodes, Dano Moreno, and a whole bunch of different people. And as you all know, he was an absolutely amazingly talented person. I've just stumbled onto 2 CDs of his. Dos Coyotes was one. and the other one is Flambeau, a party going on in my head. And he had a kid that used to play with him that was a youngster he called Future Nate. And when Nate and Mark got together, they had a bass player named Misha, and they just kicked it. They absolutely kicked it, tore the roof off the place. Little club right next to the theater up here in Ojai. Another time when Mark and Shelley were together, they lived in a house somewhere in this general neighborhood. It wasn't very far from here. And they had a party going on, and I had a trailer that I'd made. There was a barbecue, had a big grill on it, and one of my specialties is cooking fish. And as they were playing, I was feeding them bites of my bacon-wrapped albacore. And that was something that they told me about for years and years and years, how fun that had been for them. And my memories of Mark are really deep and heartfelt. And I hope and pray that he's resting peacefully at this point in time. And that all of you that love and miss him and find whatever peace and comfort you need to get through this time. Love you, Mark, wherever you are. Thank you, Chris.
I suspect he's right here watching over this, seeing how all his friends come together here with their heartfelt feelings for him. Would you like?
Yeah, I was hesitating at first, but I figured I should say.
Absolutely.
My name's Andrew Versafano. I came up with an idea. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's louder back here than it is.
You can get up on stage and use that mic.
No, that's fine. I'll be okay. I met Mark when we were living on North Ventura Avenue, and we had like some kind of a camping thing going on a few years back, maybe 4 years back now. It was called like Safe Parking or some Safe Sleep, some kind of program like that, because we were homeless. We didn't have a home, but we were living in our campers and stuff, so we park on the avenue. It was a big deal. There was like a lot of us there. And yeah, he did. That's right. Gnawbone, he called it. Yeah, in Gnawbone, California. That was our little corner there, right before the park. And then the opportunity came where I could buy a piece of land, and I called it the Safe Land Harbor Mobile Homestead Model. And we all moved, including Mark, eventually to San Luis Obispo County. We were out there, and he's told me many times that I saved his life by moving out there because he wasn't around the people that was providing him the substances that, you know. He did miss his friends greatly, but he didn't miss that part. And he was doing pretty good. 4 years on and off, he had his little falling out, but all in all, he was writing great songs, he was playing, he was very talented. And man, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be here playing with the Jumbies on stage with all you guys, you know. It just never happened. And we would have Sundays at Paco's, and we will, you know, routinely play every Sunday at in the valley with among friends, have a big barbecue, and he'd be like the star, you know. He'd bring us together. He really does it. He really does that. So it was very well loved, and he'll be greatly missed. I'm sorry, but yeah, he's in a better place now, I suppose. Doing his thing. I'm sorry, you guys. This is. I'm still processing the whole thing. It's touched so many hearts, including my own. Yeah, I'll miss the guy. Thank you all for being here. All right.
You bet. Anybody else? Oh, Roger. Well, our drummer showed up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Roger, and I'm just getting chills talking about Mark. I don't even remember how we met. I don't even remember. It just seemed like it was the right thing to come together. He said to me, Roger, you need to be playing with this band I'm in, Acadiana. I went, really? I went and sat in. I had the gig. And so he and I played in Acadiana for multiple years. Mark represented the thing in every one of us that we wish we had, that we actually do have. Spontaneity. He would like, okay, I'm off to Hawaii, right? And it showed up here. It showed on any stage he was in. He was like the wild man. You know, the way he played, the way he acted. And I was with him through that whole time. Loved Shelley. Through that time, it was a very, very rough patch for a lot of people. And as we all know, especially for Mark, it was rough for him. I tried to love him as much as I could. And sometimes that wasn't really easy. But I still loved him, you know, and we would come back together, and then maybe, whatever. I am so happy that we were able to come back together before his untimely departure. I love you, brother. God bless you. Thank you.
Oh, you're gonna give it a go? Okay.
Hi, I'm Chris. Chris Bueller's friend, and I didn't realize how I'd met Mark until tonight, until Chris spoke, and I was there when he drove the tuna into his truck. I got pictures of that actually, but I remember a little differently. I thought the guy was really cool, but I didn't know that was Mark until you just said that story. But yeah, he was really cool. He was like, "Oh, that's no problem. You know, that's the window. I don't really need it." Yeah. But technically, it was a salmon that year, I think, wasn't it?
I think it was salmonella.
Yeah, he converted it to a salmonella. And I've spent some time up at the ranch with Mark, and I don't really know him very well. I just met him like 6 months ago. And the one thing I just wanted to say is, like what the last person said, is he really approached everything with enthusiasm. You know, like whatever it was, man, he was just on it and charging at it and had energy. And that left a mark on me. And so as I've been thinking about it and processing it, because I didn't know him very well, but it was close to home here when he passed. I just remember that about him. I just wanted to share that he was a cool guy and good musician, and I liked his music, and you know, like the thing the other guy did sometimes. You know. But a good guy, and I'm sure he's in a better place, and that's my story. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, he always had a positive attitude that was great. He knew how to go with the flow. He was like a expert at it. What? My fly is down? What? Oh, I'm going to tell that. Yeah. So okay. So up in Oregon. So now, well, first I'll say I picked up I picked up Mark about 10 months ago in May and brought him up to Oregon, and so we spent the summer up there this last summer with Chris and Larissa, and a lot of you have been up here, George and and Jamie and Brenda, you were there anyway, and but okay, so I have this friend of mine up at the ranch that does these mushroom journeys, right? You know the story I'm going to tell. And so she does these journeys, and they're kind of like facilitated for people that aren't used to doing that. And she was real grateful for being able to have it at the ranch. And anyway, she laid a chocolate bar on me, and I didn't know where to put it, so I stuffed it in my truck because that's where I was at the time. And needless to say, Mark decided to borrow my truck one day. And these are 8-gram bars, you know, because she does heroic journeys. These are not, this is about really getting something spiritual out of it, right? And so, anyway, Mark drove my truck to town, and he had a hankering.
He was hungry.
Yeah, he had a hankering for a chocolate bar, by gosh. So he had apparently a big hankering. So he goes into the grocery store, and later he tells me there was something funny about that grocery store. Anyway, I couldn't believe, he did make it back to the ranch, which was about 10 miles. How he did that. How'd you do it, Mark? And so I was down at the shop, and he pulls in at the shop, and then he parks, and then I'm seeing him there, and I see him get out, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah." So then I got distracted because the sheriff was coming up the driveway, and then he was going to go past me if I didn't. So I waved him on. I said, "Yeah, I'm over here." And so he came in, and he just was asking about somebody, and so we just did our business. And then he looks over at Mark, and I said, "Yeah, he's in another galaxy far, far away." So yeah, that was quite. You probably have more to add to that story. I think we all have something to add to that story, but I will say this. So we drive up to the house, and and I decided that I was just going to keep tabs on him, because I actually didn't even know at the time what had happened. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that I left the chocolate bar there. I didn't know anything yet. I got reminded that. Was it you, Larissa?
Well, we were talking about it on the phone.
Here.
And, I'll just go up here because I'm going to speak anyway. So, yeah, we were talking about it, and he said, "I don't know what's up with Mark. Something's wrong with him. And I think maybe he ate one of my chocolate bars." And then he went and looked in the truck, and sure enough, there was the wrapper. So he ate the whole chocolate bar, 8 grams of chocolate, mushroom chocolate. And so he called George, and George had to go and help Chris get Mark into the truck so that they could get him back up to the houses. And then he was just playing air guitar. And he played air guitar in the forest for hours. Yeah. But he said that he saw, in the aftermath, he changed from that experience. And he said that he saw the whole ranch as being, a whole outpost, or a village of the where Chief Joseph was, and the what were they, the Nez Perce. And so he could see them all covered over the ranch, and he saw all kinds of things. Mark had this amazing ability to see into other dimensions, and he would tell me about that stuff all the time. And so I really loved talking to Mark. He was just so tuned in to things that most people can't see, and I love that stuff. And so he was my buddy over the summer, and I'm really going to miss him this summer. He got me picking my banjo in a way that I hadn't really learned how to do it before, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. He didn't know really how to teach me how to do it. He just got me to do it in a way that was free. and he encouraged me like nobody ever had, he was just such a great guy. He's my buddy, and so I'm looking at George, and we had this one day, me and George and Mark, we went out on a hike, and it's a hike that we've done, George and I have done many, many times, but that day, for some reason, we got a little lost, but probably because maybe 10 minutes in, we smoked a joint. And we just walked and walked and walked, and we laughed the whole time. And then we realized, oh, we're lost. And we were lost for a long time. We were out there for about 4 hours. But the whole time we laughed. We had such a good time. And I woke up the next morning thinking, man, that was just the best day. It was so goddamn fun. So yeah, that's how I think of Mark. He always made me laugh. One of his big things over the summer was diphthongs. Remember that? He would talk about diphthongs. Everything was a diphthong. And he never defined what the diphthong was all about, but he just really liked to say it. Anyway, I'm really going to miss Mark so much. He was just a really special guy with a massive heart and never said anything bad about anybody. Ever, 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 ever. Everything was just all love. He was just so tuned in. He was a beautiful, beautiful being, beautiful spirit. And I miss him. So, anyway, thank you. Anybody?
Let me go back before that. I got involved with the Ojai Mardi Gras in '09, and we were the following year at Chris and Laura had their grand celebration, and he made it able for us not to be able to use the women's club anymore. So we had to go searching. We ended up getting an arrangement going with the Art Center, but the problem was we had to use the entire weekend because they didn't want us to just rent one night. So in order to have the whole weekend, we needed to come up with something for a Sunday. And Judy Nelson in our group came up with the idea of a Fé des Do, which is a little afternoon party where the parents get together while the kids sleep. And so we decided to do that, but we needed a band. And I honestly don't know who introduced us to Mark, but he came along and said, absolutely. And so he put together a Cajun band for our Sunday morning dance festival while most of the Mardi Gras was asleep because they stayed up till 2 in the morning. And I'm sure Chris told you about how he met Mark that day with backing into his, with the fish, right? So Mark has been a friend of ours and a friend of mine for all these years, and every time we needed his help, boom, he was there. He'd make a band work, he would make a group thing, and we couldn't hardly pay him anything, but he was always there for the music. And at the last party Chris had here about 2 months ago, him and I sat down and had a long conversation about Bob Dylan and this new movie, and I just kept appreciating how interested he was in other people's thoughts, and he kept asking me questions as opposed to telling me about music. And so I actually left that evening thinking, God, Mark's a great guy. And so to lose him so soon is heartbreaking and so sad, but I just want to say he is connected with the Mardi Gras for over 10 years, and he's one of the reasons we had so much fun. So he'll be truly missed.
Hello, I'm Doogie. Now it's covered. Right and left. Anyway, I've known Mark ever since the second of the Mardi Gras. I was always in the background. And Shane, it was actually at 2012 that happened. That's when we had to go from 2011 teams. We weren't at the Women's Center anymore, but we had to go over, and I've known Mark ever since. Also go up to his house when he has birthday. If some of you might know his birthdays, he'd bring the bands from Colorado and Hawaii to come in and play over there on Orange Street where he was living with Shelley. And I knew his sons. I don't know if they're here or not, but he has 2 sons, if any of you knew that. So I think Laura Bell might know more about that. But Mark was always loved everybody. He always talked in like they said, or there's nothing I could add more to that. But he's always was into the Mardi Gras with it, anything, or music. That's what he loved. And it was sad. He stayed here his last 2 weeks around, and Chris brought him in. 2 weeks before that, he was staying with me, and I talked to him a lot. But anyway, that's it with Mark. And I know most of us have got a lot of stories with Mark and all. He's touched everywhere with the music and all, with the Mardi Gras and all that's been going through over when it ended for 30 years. Michael Levine was the oldest longing one. I was the second to the longest holding, but I was always in the background. I never was up in the front. Michael Crawford probably about that. Also Lanny, working in the back area. So that's what I did. Anyway, that was with Mark that I know, and he was great, but he did love everybody. So that's...
Hopefully I know how to use a microphone. You know. So I was asked to read something from someone else, but first I'd like to say that the last time I saw Mark he was right here, and I was right here. And I wish Patricia had been with us that night, you know. I met Mark through Patricia. Mardi Gras had a special event at the home of the Whitakers or Whitmans in the town, beautiful home. And Mark Whitman, and he invited us up on stage to play. And I have to say that of all my friends here and all my musician friends in Ojai all these years, he's the one that I think the highest of. Not just because he was a phenomenal musician, a true musician who could play any instrument he put his hands on, but humility. And he cherished. Look at how he looked at his wife. He cherished. He is an example of how we should live in many respects. And his downfall was his upfall. He just loved, he did everything hard, didn't he? You know? And that's true of all of us, if you think about it. That which is we're best at is the same thing we're worst at, in a sense. I know that, you know, if you think about it. So anyhow, Laura Bell asked me to say a few words. I am so glad to be here and see all of you. I love you guys. I love you. Hope I can get through it. Hold on. Got a new code here. Hold on. All right. So these are some words from Ken and Michelle Hughes, I believe. Well, Ken and Michelle Hughes were unable to attend but wanted to say how much they loved Mark and how heartbroken they are. And then... Hold on. Took a picture of Chris, you're in my way right there. Took a picture of you and I had to scroll through you.
Just scroll through.
Not your fault. Okay. So this was, this is a friend, his, Mary Wister. I believe from Colorado. Laura Bell, are you here? I don't know where she is. Okay. I think they're from Colorado. So she says, I think I met Mark about 24 years ago, probably at a retreat in Red River, New Mexico. We shared the same Satguru, Sat Devananda, who I'm sure is holding him tight. I can hear them both laughing hysterically. Kathy Denso lit our lamps and taught us so much by her humble approach. I too opened my home to Mark to detox on a couch during one of these retreats in Ojai County, or Colorado. We were close friends ever since. Yesterday I soaked at Orvis Hot Springs as I did with Mark often, especially after skiing. I always loved The tricks he would do on the slopes in his short little skis, spinning as if he was creating vortexes to pull you into his magnetic personality. You couldn't be around Mark and not love him. After soaking, I saw musicians play, quote, on the wild side. You know that song, On the Wild Side? They knew Mark, and this was was him to the T. In closing, I just want to say that Mark always lived, will live always on in our hearts. His music, his energy, his craziness, which brings a smile to my face in these even crazier than him times. True that. Peace out, Mark, and all of our friends. I love you. And one other thing I want to say is all my years of doing the Mardi Gras, and unfortunately I didn't get to play with Mark in the Mardi Gras. I came after. Yeah, as far as I can remember. But I would give my camera to a friend and say, here, take some photos. And never did I see a picture of the Mardi Gras without orbs present. And I'll bet that's because all of us who have passed, we know the Mardi Gras, we don't want to miss it, right? So they would show up, and I wouldn't doubt that Mark is here today on his way, on his travels. Good to see you, Mark. We send you off in a good way.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Connie. While you were sharing, I was looking at this picture right here of Mark, and I'm thinking of Mork, and he kind of reminds me a lot of Mork, you know, because you know that picture of him is. Y'all know who Mork was, right? We're all old enough for Mork, right? Mork and Mindy. Mork from Ork, that's it, right? So, yeah, he was pretty unique character, off the wall. I'll tell you what, it was a pleasure to have known him for the few years, really a year, is about all I really knew him. And anyway, is there anybody else? Here. Oh, Manny, great. Sure.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for hosting this for Mark. And hello, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces here. We all have some history here, and I hope we all get a send-off like this. Mark, being the star that he was, he had a lot of experience of people cheering him and celebrating him, which not everybody gets to experience. So I'm glad we all got to do that right here a few weeks ago. So I think, well, my name is Lanny, and I'm here with my wife Rondia, who's in the back there. Wave your hand. And my brother Michael's here too. We got here a little late. I don't know if you spoke already. No. Yeah. Okay. So I think I met Mark through you, as I've met a lot of musicians that I know. Yeah, I think it was me that told you about Mark for the Fey Dodo. And I mean, Mark, a lot of people here have played with Mark over the years, so they can tell you much more about his musicianship than I can. But to me, he had the musical gene. He had it all going on. He was a musical genius and a multi-instrumentalist. He played guitar, fiddle, flute, and probably other things I don't even know about, but he played them all well enough to, to be in the studio recording. So, yes, he's gone way too soon. But look at all the people that he brought love to, that are in this group right here. So I guess that's all any of us can hope for in this life, is to bring some love to the planet and to each other. So with all respect to the Chumash people whose land we're on, I'd like to sing a Lakota peyote song for Mark. It's from a man named Gerald Primo Sr., And it was a memorial song that he wrote, or he composed rather, for someone in his family. The hawk is calling. Hail no, hail no, yo no, hail no, hey nay. Hail no, hail no, yo no, hail no, hey nay. Hail no, hail no, yo no, hail no, hey nay. Hail no, hail no, yo no, hail no, hey nay. Yo no, hail no, hey nay, oh hey. God bless our beloved country. Aho, Wichiana, yo, will na, hey, nay. Yo, na, he'll na, hey, nay. Hail na, will no. Yo, na, he'll na, hey, nay. Hail na, will no. Yo, na, he'll na, hey, nay. Yo, na, he'll na, hey, nay, oh, hey. God bless Mark Parson. Aho, Wichiana, yo, will na, hey, nay. Yo, na, he'll na, hey, nay. Hail na, will no. Yo, na, he'll na, hey, nay. Hail na, will no. Yo, na, he'll na, hey, nay. Yo, na, he'll na, hey, nay, oh, hey. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Lanny. This is Bill, my next door neighbor.
I was gonna say, I'm Chris's neighbor. My name is Bill. Chris tells me some people call me Christian Bill, which is perfectly okay. Mark actually came to many of the programs that we had over at my house. And for a while he was doing a gig at the wine bar across from the Serendipity Toy Store in Ojai. And we do our thing on Sunday morning in Ojai, and sometimes he would come by and we'd have a whole exchange of conversations. He liked what we did and we liked what he did. So I prepared a little thing here. I like to think about people who had a purpose or meaning in my life. So it's only very short here. I have absolutely no musical talent, so I always considered Mark to be a brilliant musician. It seemed to me that he could pick up any musical instrument and play it like he was born with it in his hands already holding it. Mark had the mood of an avadut, which in Sanskrit word for an individual who had little care for social customs. Avadut. It appeared to me that much of his life was unplanned and unpredictable. But when he played music, he went into his own divine inner spiritual trance, and a flow of melodious sounds poured out of him. In this way, Mark was also a hoot, very creative, spontaneous, and unexpectedly venturous. With me, his nature was always friendly, welcoming, and appreciative. We shared a common interest in yoga, meditation, and higher consciousness. He had his own internal awareness of what the Gita explains as the eternal nature of the soul. The Gita is written in Sanskrit, so I'll just read the Sanskrit and then the English. Na santo vijite bhavo, na bhavo vijite saha, ubayor api dristyo natas tuanyas tatvadar shabir. So Mark actually had a sense of this. Those who are the seers of the soul have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance. But of the eternal soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. About 20 years ago, Mark invited me to attend his birthday party and insisted I lead his band in a short session of the Hare Krishna mantra, despite my very unprofessional and musically lacking abilities. However, he was a force to be reckoned with. So I complied, and he was very talented enough to carry the tune and make it work. This gesture induced an auspicious element into the festivities that everyone appreciated. It is explained in Vedic theology that even a small consideration like this alone is a significant step in the pursuit of higher consciousness. So I am confident at this time that Mark will continually prosper in his future journey, as the Gita explains. Najayate mrityate vakatasin nayam bhuta bhavitavana bhuyo ajo nityasasrato yam parano nahanyate hanyamane sarire. For the soul there is neither birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Knowing that this soul is eternal, we can take comfort that life in this world is just a temporary transcendental moment where we will all eventually exchange our current body for a new model. I am confident that Mark has been given a new body in a new place, perfectly designed to carry him forward towards a higher awareness his musically, beautifully soul is destined to find. Vashami janati yata vyahaya nayanti janati naro prani tatasiranani vihani janti anyanti sanmanti navati dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Thank you, Mark, for your musical memories very much.
Thank you, Krishna Bill. Spoonie?
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Happy that y'all all here. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, Mark Parsons, man, beautiful soul, beautiful human being, fearless, funny, and just like, man, he was, and like Roger said earlier, spontaneous. You know, he just, you know, he was Mark, man, and I was his biggest fan, especially on stage. You know, some of the things that he would say would just like just crack me right the. You know, I think one time, wasn't the last time that we were here, but the time before that, he said something on the mic like, yeah, I never really wanted to be famous, and I'm happy to report that the universe is so complied. I was like, what? But, you know, in his own right, man, he certainly was, you know, and he, you know, I mean, how do you measure fame anyway, right? You know, it's like, he just, you know, the talent that he had, you know, to be able to play any instrument at will, you know, and to even be able to just spontaneously just go for it. You know, I learned a lot from him over the years in doing that, you know, and I used to always, when I first met him, which I don't really remember how, it must have been at a jam session, and he invited me to play with Crowfoot, with Roger and with Lee. And so I was like, cool, well, give me a set list. You know, I like to do everything, you know, in my way, like have the songs, learn them, show up, you know, maybe even rehearse a couple times. Mark wasn't about that. He was like, you can play these songs in your sleep, man. I go, you just met me. He goes, I already know, man. I know you. You can do this, Spoonie, you can do this. And so I showed up and I did the gig, like having not played that style of music. It was bluegrass, and it was a bunch of stuff that just I wasn't really familiar with at the time, you know. And he turned me on to it, told me the keys, let's go, you know, and we did it. And he had me do it on upright bass as well, you know, which it doesn't have frets, so there's a whole lot of concentration and trying to figure out what's going on. And just he made me a better player, made me a better person, you know, just, you know, having him in my life. there were other things too. Oh, he remembered his past lives, and he would talk about that. He told me, in fact, he said, "Well, Spoonie, you know, I'm gonna let you in on something. This is the first time that I've ever been a white guy." I was like, okay. All right. And he told me about the time that he was a black fiddle player. And I think he told me that he taught Paganini how to play or something like that. It was in that time. And I was like, oh, shit, okay. Well, right on, man. Blew my mind. But, and then he had some other stories that are just amazing. One is a little bit too long. He texted it to me. But it's about a time that he was in Thailand and he ate a Thai beetle. I don't know if any of you know that story, but it's a fabulous one. If you want, I would read it, but it's a long, you know. I'll text it to you, or I'll share it with you if you guys want to afterwards. That was amazing. Then there's one about he was hiking somewhere in the mountains there, and there was a mountain lion that was following him along the way, and that was an amazing story. He said when he finally got to camp, he said that mountain lion was sitting over there about 100 yards, just kind of watching him. And he looked him square in the face and said, "Don't even try it." Mountain lion complied and left him alone. I was like, only Mark, man. You know, beautiful guy, beautiful soul. And brother, I'm going to miss you. You know, I'm going to miss you, man, but you're always right there in my heart. You know, every note I play, you know, I've been thinking about you, man, since the last time we played here. God bless you, brother. I love you much.
Mark was my buddy. I'm Burton. I got to play with him over many years, from some of the first Mardi Gras when none of us knew what we were doing, and some of the later ones too. And I know he would not want a bunch of people sitting around, just sitting around looking sad. No way, man. So, Mark, this one's for you, man. Can you give me a clave? Can you? I went on down to the Audubon Zoo, and they all asked for you. They all asked for you, and they all inquired about you. The tiger asked, the elephant asked, and the giraffe asked for you too. And Mark, we got a dance for you. We got a lot for you, brother.
All right, Burton. There's another one right there. Yeah. Another wild one. Okay, Lee.
Well, I went down a lot of different roads with Mark over the years, and hard to describe what a lot of those experiences were. I know he was an avid, I don't know if avid's the word, backpacker, mountain climber, adventurer, and you know, nobody liked him really. And I remember playing the ski resort in Badger Pass, and you know, up in the lodge, that there wasn't much room on the bar. That he hopped up there with his fiddle, and didn't matter whose drink was in the way, and he would just, you know, stuff went flying, and that was Mark. You know, he was a wild man, and geez, I can't remember how many bands I played with him. You know, Whiskey Chimp, and I brought him up to Happy Valley School when I was head of the music department, and he did his psychotic fiddler act and didn't impress the administration much, but it was a lot of fun. You know. And anyway, when I first met Mark, I didn't really meet him. I think I was down by the harbor, and he was sitting there with his fiddle, and he, you know, Mark was, I guess, word would be gregarious, and I just heard him talking from a while away and talking about the fiddle, so that's how we met, and you know, played in a lot of bands with him, and profound statements that most of them I can't remember. I think one of them was, if a man either sits alone or dies alone in the forest, is he still wrong? You know, so anyway, stuff like that, and man, we where else did we play? Well, played out at the Grand Canyon with him, just the two of us, and hiked down past the river, and I think it was we decided to turn back and go back to the lodge, and not Mark, he went over the river and somewhere else, and he did finally make it back, but kind of worried about him for a while, but anyway, gonna miss the guy. And I could go on and on with all the years that we did stuff together, but thanks for everybody that's here to remember him.
Thanks, Lee. Anybody else?
Hi everyone, I'm Michael. It's good to see you all here. So great to hear all these remembrances and stories. Your love, Mark. Yeah, I've known Mark since like the '90s, and we were very close friends then, back in the pages. I'm very glad for that. Yeah, my story is about when Mark played with Zydeco legend Ernest Arsenault twice. And the first time was in 2003 when Furnace was booked at the Bowl Full of Blues as a headliner. And so day of show, he showed up. They were traveling by land. They came out from Louisiana. And they showed up at the bowl, and lo and behold, the guitar player's not there. I said, well, what happened? What happened to Mike? He said, oh, Furnace said, yeah, he had to leave the band. I don't know what happened, but anyway, he wasn't there. So he said, Mike, you gotta find me a guitar player. You know, I don't want to do this as a trio. So, luckily, Mark was on the show that year too with Flambeau. So I was thinking, you know, I got to find a guitar player that has that Louisiana feel. And, of course, I thought of Mark. So I asked him, he goes, yeah, I love Furnace, I'll do it. So Mark did the set, and it was great. No surprise, but he totally nailed it. Okay, so 2 years later, the Chicago Blues Festival called back. They want Furnace. So I'm talking to him about it. He said, yeah, I got my rhythm section, but Little Buck can't make it. And Little Buck is Buck Senegal, who's considered at the top of the heap of Zydeco guitar players. And that's Furnace's first call for recordings and big events and stuff. But he goes, yeah, Buck's not available. So I said, well, who do you want? Who do you want to have? And he said, He goes, see if that little white boy from Ojai will go. And I thought, well, good choice. So, I asked Mark. He goes, hey, twist my arm, man. I'm down. So, we went to Chicago, mother of all blues festivals. And, boy, Mark played so good that day, it wasn't even funny. I mean, he just stunning. Every note rang out, and he just, he didn't just ace it, he was just playing amazing. His star was shining, and he elevated the entire band, as you know how he can do, but he really had it going on, just beautiful. And Furnace got like 3 standing ovations. Mark got 4. It was really great. So I'm glad I could have a hand in that, making that happen for him. And thank you, Mark, for all your gifts, your kindness. Really helped me when I was in trouble. Big heart. And yeah, thanks, Mark. Respect.
Thank you, Michael. Michelle?
I was trying to think of when I met him, and it was when he was playing with Gary Best, and he was over at Winchester's in Ventura, and Gary needed somebody that, I guess it was when he was living in San Luis, because he was living a little bit further away, and sometimes if he didn't get to the gig, then I would be called in. Well, I was kind of auditioning for that, and they were playing, and it was so cool. I thought, they just want me to like get up there and play a tune or something, and he looks at me and he just shoves this fiddle in my hand. And I thought, the only way you can do it is just go. I had a great time. And he was so generous to play with. We played a bunch of times together, like just twin fiddles, but he was really a great teacher. And I'm going to miss you. He was like just starting to like teach me some of that Zydeco stuff. And I was like, shit, damn it, why? I'm sorry. I mean, it was like a little untimely, I was just getting to know him, and it was fun. The last time that you had the party here, and he was playing, and then got down off the stage, and I got up there with a couple of people, and I had my electric fiddle, and he comes on up, and he wanted to see what that fiddle was like, so I traded it for, and pretty soon he was like, the band comes up, and it was like, go ahead, kid. It was great. I mean, you guys took off, and I was looking, and actually he gave me a fiddle to warm up because it was a new fiddle to him, and I'm still warming it up. It's like, come on, dude, where are you? I'm getting this thing ready for you. So I guess I'll have to just keep on playing it, and someday he's going to have to come back because I got that fiddle. So, yeah, so there you go.
It's good to see you two play together. It was cool. Yeah. Okay, is there anybody else? Is that Mark? So that's Mark saying it's over? It's enough?
You know why? Mark always told me to call him Pop. Okay, I made that up, but wasn't it befitting? Wasn't it perfect? This is totally something he would do. When I first met Mark, my good friend Andrew was coming down to Ventura from far, far away, like 2 hours. So I said, "Oh, we're gonna be having a Mardi Gras party. You should come by." He goes, "I can't. I'm with Mark, and he's gonna be playing fiddle down at Dargan." I go, "Oh." I go, "Well, maybe you can come by afterwards." He goes, "No, we've got a party to go to." So I said, shoot. I go, Mark Tovar? He goes, no, Mark Parson. He plays the fiddle. So we went down to Darken and we heard him playing. He was fantastic. There's one song called Wild Rover. You guys know the song? There's a clapping pattern. But no one was clapping because, of course, they didn't know, Americans. So I stood up in front of the stage at Mark's invitation and led the clapping pattern. And I asked to get an aide to do the interpretation for the deaf to clap behind me, but didn't happen. So after that, I came to my party, and suddenly, 15 minutes later, there were Andrew and Mark. And it turned out to be the same party. So Mark played that day, just fantastic. And we hung out afterwards. I stayed the night, as did they. The next day we did all the cleaning, we did the brunch. And he was so warm and so genuine that I'm going to need a tissue now. I know I brought them. And if anyone else needs some, they're right here. But he was so warm, genuine, so helpful in helping to clean everything up, get the back line set up. And as they were leaving, he gave me the warmest hug. And he said, you know, you're really good people. And I knew he meant it because he was really authentic and really kind. And I'm going to miss him for a long time. We spent a lot of time here at the house and just having such good laughs. And he let me play his guitar, and he didn't hold his ears or anything. He was that nice. I mean, there might have been a little bit of throwing up in the mouth, but he held it in. He held it in. And I was, of course, shocked to find out that he was gone. Yes. Oh, thank you. It's not monogrammed? But just such a terrific guy. So I only knew him for 2 years. So for all of you who knew him for so much longer, how lucky you are. I do want to mention, too, there's a Facebook group called Remembering Mark Parson. We're trying to build, we have got such great media. People are donating home videos. We've got all Mark's posts. We've got a baby picture of him from 1954. So we ask you, if you're a Facebook user, to please go and look for Remembering Mark Parson. It'll be a picture of him playing fiddle in a desert landscape. So here's to Mark, and it would be the perfect denouement if another balloon would pop now. Mark, say it, kid. Okay. That is something Mark would do. So, again, thank you all for being here. Please do join the Facebook group. Enjoy all of the fantastic videos. We've got 6 of his albums he played on there that you're welcome to enjoy along with all of us. We're going to be playing some of his music during the buffet. So we'll have tissues on the buffet table as well. But again, thank you all for coming, and thank you all for loving him so much. I know it was an easy thing to do.
Thank you, Laura Bell. See, you can do it.
No, I'm Desert Moss. Desert Moss.
Well, I don't have any closing remarks. Does anybody else want to speak? Oh, Miyuki.
I haven't been here in a while. Well, last month maybe. I'm always invited to this party here, and it took me a while. Took care of Dad for a while till he passed. My last conversation with Mark was a couple months ago, and he was Mr. Sunshine at that moment. And he was kind of kicking my you-know-what and saying, you better get out there, because I've been hiding a little while. And sometimes I come here and peek out, but he's a real brother. And Mark knows no boundaries with that.